Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe here with another exciting episode of Crowdfunding Comics, episode 111, with the bug-out bag himself, the man who's prepared for any situation, Mr. Billy Tucci, and Jimmy's best friend, Brian.
Brian Blevins, Jimmy Palmiotti's best friend, Brian Blevins.
What's up, Porky Pig?
Well, you know, so I got the quarantini going on, so
I got the quarantini as well.
There you go. Blevins, you got the quarantini?
No.
Well, we got a couple other guys with some quarantinis. So without further ado, Niall, you want to take it
so
home?
Tonight we're going to be talking because there is hope, people. There's hope in creators, collectors, people out there. We're stronger than ever, and we're going to get through this. So first off, we have retailers as well, collectors. Mr. Brian Polito's in the house. Brian, how you doing?
Brian Polito.
With his quarantini. Salute to Mr. Polito.
I'll drink to that.
We've got Jesse James in the house. Jesse, how you doing?
What up?
I'm rock and rolling, ready to go.
Salute. Salute. And the man himself, Mr. Jimmy Palmiotti.
Hey guys. How you doing?
Mayor.
You got your Darwin-tini going on?
I do have my Darwin-tini right here.
A Darwin-tini and firearms. Whatever could go wrong?
Yes. Hey, to a lovely stream tonight, gentlemen. A lovely stream.
It's good to see you all. We had a very entertaining pre-show, and we want to tell you that Jimmy, we have Brian's beautiful wife Francisca's here. Good to see you. We got our friends. We got Lee. We got Mogwai. We got Demon Phil. We got Demon Phil Comics and more, New Jersey. Brian, we got a Jersey right there.
Jersey in the house.
Jersey in the house. Good to see you guys.
We got DJ TJ James on Wrench.
On the mic, on Wrench.
He is the moderator for tonight. And Harrisburg here tonight, coming in hot.
Super hot fire. Well,
no relation to Jesse James. No relation, Jesse James.
Well, we got Victor Thomas here. So, well, guys, we've had hey, Toki, what's up? We've had an interesting week, huh, boys?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to if I may, to get Jesse's take on this, because Jesse, you're kind of like the prepper of all retailers, because was it a year or two ago that you actually stopped bringing in new comics?
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. 2 years ago, go ahead.
And you set up a whole new model of retailing that has thrived.
Yeah.
With your
2 years ago. Yeah. 2 years ago, I woke up there. 2 years ago, I just woke up on a Sunday and said, how do I better my business? How do I approach my customers with a great grouping of comics for them to see every day, not just on a Wednesday? Brian knows my motto, beyond Wednesdays. Tell me what you're doing on Monday, not Wednesdays, because we already know we're then do good on Wednesday. So we built a great platform with our brand, and we created Comic Book Shopping Network, which was a grouping of great stores across the nation, 16 stores, 16 family members. Brian's part of it as well. That every day we showcase and highlight these stores, A Comic Shop, Space Cadets, all across the states, that get to share their goods and their brands to customers 7 days a week. Right now, we average anywhere from 500 to 1,000 books are sold on the network. The collective group represent over 270,000 fans on their collective Facebook pages. So we just wanted a platform for people to go to, have some great comic book therapy, have a great comic book experience. And I knew I couldn't do it with new issues and try to do and build this brand. So was it a big chance that I took? Yes, but I felt that it was worth it in the end.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I actually worked for a guy named Jim Walsh in Jersey from like in 1978, 79. In comic book shops back then, we're just peddling classic comics and vintage comics. There wasn't a thing called this direct market until 80, 81. Jesse, in a sense, what you did is brought back a lot of what we just love about comics, which is ruminating on fun vintage stuff and oddball stuff. great job.
Yeah, I mean, I miss talking to Jesse on Facebook. When I left Facebook, I used to talk to Jesse. Remember, I used to get a lot of inside information from Jesse. He has his ears to the ground as far as what people are reading and everything. So I miss talking to you, buddy.
I miss talking to you as well.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Jesse
We're
did?
reunited right now.
Yes, yeah.
And it feels so good.
Well, Jesse,
Reunited and it feels so good. Oh, sorry.
Peaches and her.
Billy, I had this for you since you're in the New York area.
I know.
Yeah.
I might mail it to you.
Bro, I ain't kidding, man. I got this. Look at this.
Oh, that one. That's
Oh no.
This is from a buddy of mine.
I hope you wiped it down. It's
Oh, yeah.
upside down.
Yeah, it's all clean. It's always clean.
It's from their cosplaying.
yeah.
There you go. Friday night.
No, this is a buddy of mine, was an iron worker at Ground Zero, Jimmy. And when he was done, he gave it to me. And he's like, take this. If there's a house fire or anything like that, you know, you're going to need this, you know. So I'm pretty well stocked. But something that Jesse did is Jesse almost now, I don't know, Jimmy or Brian, what do you guys feel about this? Is that Jesse's created, and I think this might almost be something that could be happening, is created a nostalgia store, which is like what you worked in 1979, Brian, and that Jimmy was just talking about, that you can get all this cool nostalgia, all this great pop culture stuff, because comics really is on the cutting edge of, you know, pop culture, on society with all the big films and all. But he also does new books because he's a huge supporter of independent comics.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the one thing that I think the great focus about what we offer today is there's thousands of orphan customers that didn't have stores to begin with, not just over the last couple of weeks. So those customers now have a place to hang out with. My show is called The Binge Bar. We're celebrating our 434th show tonight. And people come in, they hang out, they don't have to buy. But it's funny to see someone from South Dakota talk to someone in California about their kids, and they're never then meet each other. So I think what we have accomplished is we hope that all stores out there take that chance, turn on their camera, grab a piece of paper and show some bucks. And I think that's what it's about. Just getting product in front of people. And I think people right now just need that, like you guys said, they need that hope. They need to know that their comic book store is still out there. And a lot of people want to help their stores. They just don't know how to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I spoke to one of my local shop, and I was talking to my buddy Richie, and you know who that is, Billy. And he's not worried about it. You know, he's actually not too worried about it, because he's like, you know, everything will come back. You know, they're relying on kind of like the collectible books they have, their stock, their eBay store, things like that. And you know, I guess the word he's getting is he doesn't think it's really they're going to be off that long, you know, on pause for as long as people are anticipating. Maybe he's wrong, but him and a couple other local guys here in Connecticut don't seem to be too worried right now.
I hope he's right. I hope he's right. You know. I mean, look, guys, I don't know if you know, I have my office is in a comic shop.
Yeah.
So, you know, so they're still open. I mean, actually, tomorrow at noon, they have to actually close.
Wow.
And
even Florida's shutting down.
Yeah, well, it's not going by the state because our governor's not too bright. So it's going by the county. So each county has its own rules. So my county is Pinellas County, and they're shutting down everything except for, you know, if you have to go to grocery store, doctor, or anything like that, you know. He's, you know, he has money aside. He says, I think he has 12 or 11 or 12 people working in the shop. So he's going to keep paying them for a couple, you know, as long as he can. And he's always prepped. Neil is prepped for a rainy day. It's Emerald City Comics in Clearwater. But it's definitely, you know, the thinking is, you know, I'm concerned about the companies, right? Because, you know, that's everything has to do with everything. You know, he for the past week or two, he's been, if you drove up, if you had your new books, he would have a guy come out in a bag and it would be prepaid. He also kept, you can go in the store, but only like 5 or 6 people in the store. His store is gigantic though, so it was okay. But you know, he's in the same mentality that it's going to be a couple of weeks, you know, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, and hopefully it goes back to normal. So everybody wants to think that, but we're going to be told different or whatever as the days go on. Obviously, I'm watching Italy and Spain right now. Spain is like crazy right now too,
Out of control.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're a couple of weeks behind on all of that stuff. So
yeah.
One of the worst things that I've seen happen where I'm at. Some of the stores are already freaking out, and they're already to the point where they're trying to sell their money books. They're trying to sell their books to at a discounted price just to get however much cash they can get, so they can trying to basically liquidate their stock. And what I see happening is like either the store will make it by liquidating the stock and having this money go to nothing, just so they can keep it open, and then when they reopen, they'll be strip mined of all their things that are worth any money, or the store needs to just like realize, hey, look, like maybe there's another way for me to just stop this and fight the battle later and still retain all these items. But again, you do have to look at all your employees and everything, and it's just a hard all the way around.
It's a trying time. Well, let me ask you, Jimmy. I mean, as far as like with like for instance like DC and Marvel, I mean, they're obviously going to keep you guys are going to keep working, keep producing those books. I mean,
we did get an email today with just that saying, keep going, just keep full steam ahead with the work.
Are they going to like just like, okay, we can't print right now, we can't do this? Are they going to stick to digital in the meantime? Or are they holding out?
I don't really know the exact publishing plan. They do have, I mean, both DC and Marvel do have pretty big, their companies are gigantic, right? We're talking Warner Brothers and we're talking Disney. So they're not going to be hurting from the comic end as much right now. And you saw this week alone, both studios are releasing movies, right? To video on demand. I mean, Birds of Prey just came out video on demand this week. They pushed it ahead. So they're doing things to make money, but they also pushed Wonder Woman to August now because they were thinking about doing video on demand, and they realized that this will pass. Everything's on pause right now. So when you have these giant companies that have billions of dollars, a pause for a month or two is not really a horrible thing for them. They'll get through it. It's the smaller companies. It's the companies like Archie telling people to stop, put your pencils down. Yeah. Valiant, put your pencils down.
Literally, that's what Valiant told their freelancers, and put your pencils down.
Yes, and they look. It's actually a reflection. It's a reflection of the fragility, how fragile this business is. Right. That these companies are living from book to book. So it's a very interesting thing right now.
Ride or die comics market companies for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Amanda and I, we sat and we said, okay, if Marvel and DC stopped publishing, let's say everybody stopped publishing, could we still do comics? And of course, that's where crowdfunding comes in, right? We've established we can do some books, and we have an audience we've worked on for us almost 30 years. Right, exactly, the logo behind you. So
I know what the hell you were doing. I'm sorry. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
So but the thing with that is, of course, we want the retailers to stay in business. Like, it's great. Right. I love doing the Kickstarters, and in my Kickstarter, I always offer a thing because you're not allowed to say retailer. I always offer a thing for big families. If you have a big family, you can get 10 copies or 20 copies, that kind of thing. But it would be nice to have a network in place where we can hit all the comic shops on the side when we do the Kickstarters. That was just something that would be great for us. Say, look, here, we're doing this Kickstarter, but we want you guys to know we can also give you guys a certain amount of books for a certain amount of price. Maybe do a separate cover for them. Brian, you would probably be the master at that. A separate edition for the stores. Yeah. But we're looking at it from our house. Like, how do we survive? Yeah. And of course, my comic shop is trying to figure out how they're going to manage. And like my best friend Brian was just saying, some stores are selling their books off, but they're comics, right? So even if they sell them to make some money, they're going to have more comics. I don't think that's a big problem. I think every store has a sale a couple of times a year, so that's not the key thing here. Yeah. It's just confusing times because we've never went through it before. Yeah. So nobody knows.
Well, the world's never gone through it. You know,
what do you think more of a hard hitting thing here? Do you think it's more like, well, okay, you know, the local government stuff are shutting things down, telling people if you're not essential to close.
Yeah.
But then in our industry, is it more of an impact when Diamond says, I can't ship anything? I'm not shipping.
It tells me that if I'm one of the big companies and I can distribute my own books, I wonder how much they really need a Diamond at the end of the day.
And that's another thing, right? There's a lot of rumbling.
Yeah, I mean, by Diamond doing that, they set themselves up in like, well, I'm Warner Brothers or I'm Disney. I can distribute my own things, or I can start a distribution company tomorrow. So they do throw that risk out there because, you know, I just use Amazon as an example. Amazon isn't closing. You know, they're managing to work with what's going on in the world. Certain businesses are just saying, shut down, done. So I just think it's a very interesting week because I think there is a big risk for Diamond to say that. I think they set themselves up for some interesting times when everything sort of gets back to normal in a way, you know.
I also, and I know Brian, you have something to say, but I also feel that it's a necessary move though, because they can't ship these books to these stores that are closed, because that'll kill those shops.
Correct.
So I think it's a necessary. Yeah, Brian.
Well, just what Diamond was looking at, unfortunately, was a lot of breaks in their supply chain. Like it was crazy where one state you could ship in, one state you couldn't. But Jimmy's right. I mean, times like this where opportunity rises and presents itself. And you see a lot of little players already kind of beating their chest saying, I'm going to step up to this game. But the real cautionary tale is it's a brutal game. Distributing comics for like, 0.05 of a cent. I mean, people say like, Brian, step up, you do this, you do that. And it's like, hey man, I just like making my own comics. If it was ever about making money, I'd be a lawyer. It's really about, I make comics to make comics for people who like it. I do all the terrible things that we have to do just to get it into people's hands. People are nutty. I mean, he's right. Competition will rise, but a lot of the players out there think they're going to replace Diamond overnight. It's like, be careful what you wish for. It is a thankless job.
Oh, I actually look at the screens here with the six of us here. And I think, well, the six of us pretty much can make comics, makes comics, distribute comics, talk about comics. It's almost like there's a whole company right here.
Yeah.
Based on everybody on these screens that anything can be produced, can come together. And look, I've done almost every job in comics. So is Brian, so is Billy. We stepped out of the big two and said, well, let's do our own things. And we, again, with the Kickstarters and, crowdfunding, I mean, a lot of people tested it, but the three of us have been doing it, know. Go ahead.
I'm still pissed off, Jimmy. I got to tell you. And Brian, I mean, if you remember, we had an event, you had your other company before Coffin. We had, in my company, and we were rocking and rolling. And then those distributor wars happened. When Marvel decided to distribute their own books with Heroes World, and here we are that we're both C's, Jimmy's an E, and we're on page 35 to 30 to 42 in the previous catalog. That all of a sudden the distributor wars happens. Capital City goes out of business. Marvel decides to buy their own distribution company.
So why they all toppled in a 3-month period?
Yeah, and we were leading. We were. And maybe that's part. Maybe we were the reason why they reacted the way they did, because they didn't know what hit us. Here's us our three companies. We're producing outlaw comics, great comics that are on par, if not better, than every single book the big two were producing, and outselling them and being right there in the forefront on all the collectible books, the books that the fans want. And then they did everything in their power to not just destroy us, but every other independent publisher. Remember, we had this independent movement, just like in the 80s, but ours in the 90s, we literally took over. We were on the cusp. We had just as big as lines as any of the other companies, and leading that, of course, was Todd and Jim and Rob and Eric and all the image guys, you know, and they did it, and then we came right behind them, and I'm still sore about that. I got to tell you, I really am.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I wanted to talk about from the retailer's point, what we're looking at is, I think together now we're realizing who our allies are and who the people that were that just kind of sold us books. And so most of the publishers that I deal with, obviously we're dealing with back issues and not new issues. They've been extremely good allies to me. And how can we help you? Now, we're not going to do a letter and just tell you what we're going to do. We're going to call you. So I think right now we're creating great allies for our future. We're creating this great loyalty bond so that when everything goes back, we're going to remember those people that actually said, Jesse, I was here for you then. What can I do for you now? And so some of these people that have been quiet, I'm looking at and saying, well, where were you? So am I really going to help you when everything goes back to normal? So I think it's about creating this bond, this you know, like right now, I feel like I'm a brown shoe surrounded by tuxedos with all you greatness and all these guys on the stage.
Jesse.
Nice.
And, well, if I may throw that, Jesse, someone had asked, Heroinberg had asked the question about, tell us a bit about Jen King, who's hosting the Stopgap Facebook group to tie the comic industry, that we're all part of that.
Yeah, that's something that you would have to ask Jen King. I'm a store that is about just building my platform, reaching out socially to my customer base. I don't really dwell in that realm, so that would be a question that you definitely would want to push to Jen King, and she could speak better to that project.
So you think that basically this whole situation is going to end up being kind of like a Pretty Woman situation, you know, like you know, she walks into place to get some nice clothes, and they're just like, no, go away or whatever. So then they come out here to the independents, and they end up doing all this really big work. And now, like, when everything starts to come back by, you know, she's going to come by with all of her books and the marbles, and they're going to be like, hey, you know, if you want some more books, we can get it. It's like, nah, you know, you had your chance.
Yeah, I think that's how you conduct your business. You got to keep in mind, one of the things that's going on with the comic book store is you have all these weeks backing up. So let's just say it's hypothetically 7 weeks. Can a store really afford to take on 7 weeks of books on top of expecting your customer base to pick up those books for 7 weeks? So it doesn't end when everything gets back to hunky-dory. It becomes, how are you socially adjusting to your customer base so they feel relaxed? They have good comic book therapy. They trust you. They want to give you a couple of dollars to help you be successful. And I think that's what we should be doing now. Over the last 48 hours, I've talked to 40 plus stores, and everybody had a different idea of how they decided they wanted to survive or even present themselves to the public. I'm very fortunate. I have a very big fan base that I talk to every single day. I don't talk about anything but goodness, and that's kind of my role. So, but me and Brian have done so many projects together that I think that's what you should be doing, is building these bonds and making sure your allies are with you every moment of the day. So
I agree. I mean, at a challenging time like this, you kind of, I did a public address on Friday and said, in time, what are you really going to stand for? And at Coffin Comics, we're going to continue to stand for fun, excitement, and happiness. And we're not ignorant of really what's going on. But look, we all, at the end of a given day, man, we want to watch our comedies. We need a relief from the reality of it. And that, I believe that's what comics has been for me, probably my whole life. So I don't want to, tune in and find out about people, woe is me, because we are all in this together. It is brutal.
Yeah. Stuff Wilson says it's time for building relationships.
Absolutely. And there were the days when things were bad. You can go hooking on a corner, but now you can't have contact with people. So even that's off the table.
There are webcams.
Yeah.
No, not the same.
2018 was a great year, Jimmy.
He's talking about 3 weeks ago was a good year.
Oh, shit.
Do you think when the market does start to trickle back open and do it, do you think that these companies are really going to be able to ask for a $3.99 cover price? Do you think the market will support having such a high value, or do you think that they're going to have to like trickle it in or offer more more advertising terms or something? You know,
I personally think this timeout is going to give a lot of people pause to look at the books they've been buying and ask themselves, do I really need this book? And am I just a DC person? Am I just a Marvel person? Am I just buying this book because I have all the other ones? Or what am I buying that I'm reading and I'm really enjoying? And I think this pause might be a good thing for a lot of guys like us, because we're trying to make content to entertain and, like Brian just said, to have fun. You know, I think a lot of my writing wasn't taken too serious because I've always been writing fun comics. I've always been doing light and fun and crazy stuff. And, you know, because people say, you know, your work, you should be darker, you should do this. And I always said, no, it's harder to write fun comics because funny comics, it's a different kind of skill set. But I think this pause is going to make people go, okay, I've been spending $300 a month and buying all these things from these big companies. And now that I'm thinking about it, what do I really want and what do I really need? I also see Marvel and DC maybe panicking or using it as a pause button to say, hey, let's start everything at #1 again. You know how it goes. It's like every excuse.
I think that should happen. I think they should do it with a limited number of titles. I actually posted that on Twitter. I think you saw it. But I said I think they need to come back and kind of like maybe use the Valiant approach and just choose solid titles and solid stories that come out. And not like 4 Batman titles, like 1 Batman title, you know, like 1 Spider-Man title, and then go from there.
You know why they have so many titles like of the same Batman, like 8 Batman titles? It used to be because they sold advertising in these books, and they would spread it, and they would say, look, we have this amount of books, and if you put your ads in it, we're going to hit this many people. And the basis of Marvel and DC was basically about supporting their advertising that they were generating, advertising money. But now that they don't have that so much, because you notice it's all internal ads and right. So that's not the drive anymore. So I agree with you. I don't know. I don't understand the idea of 4 or 5 titles. I'm more of a European guy. I think Batman should be a book that comes out once a month that has 120 pages and has all the Batman stories in one thing, and it's a hardcover, so a retailer can have it on the shelf all year round.
Like a 2001 AD or something like that?
But I mean, even clever, you know, you have to be clever. If both companies, if all the bigger companies put out only hardcover graphic novels of their characters, you would still have 10 or 20 a week coming in. It wouldn't be 1 or 2. It would be still a ton of books. I just think that the disposable nature of the comics, I think we have collectors, which is, you know, Brian and Billy, we know those guys. The guys that collect, they want every cover, they want every edition. Those are our diehards. We love those people. They live and breathe our stuff. But they're also readers, and the comics have always been, to me, I've always seen people treat them crappy because it's floppy and it's that, you know, and they're only going to treat it as good as we treat it, right? They're only going to treat it as well as we treat it. And when we do our Kickstarters and our crowdfunding, our books, we're so proud of them, right? We use the best inks, the best printing. There's so much pride in the stuff we do. And man, I just look at that wall in the comic shop and I'm like, boy, half of these books need to go. You know, and I just think that's what's going to happen after this pause, and it is a pause because things will come back. Things are going to change that way, and I also think the stores are going to fine tune what they're taking as well, because they're going to see what people are picking up.
So and I think the best thing about it is we're about margins, turn rates, and bottom lines. So I really don't care about returnability stuff. What I care about is stuff I can sell. And so if you just tell me stuff I can sell, I don't need returnability. And so if people just focus and hunker down and look at their boxes and say, okay, +1, I have my guaranteed sales or semi-guaranteed sales, you know how boxes work. And then you put 1 or 2 on the shelf. but we shouldn't be going out and buying 80 copies of something just because it's returnability, because I could buy 80 books that I know I could sell someplace else.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what hurts the industry a little bit as well. So.
But then again, they also force you to buy more than 80 copies now. They're forcing you to buy
because if you want to get those variants that are hot, you got to buy a certain amount of books.
That Jimmy variant or that special variant. Yeah.
It's a game. It's a game, guys. Yeah. It's a game that it's a game that all the other books lose out because you know, I mean, let's be honest. The companies are like, I was watching the new Harley Quinn. What's her name? Punchline. And people go in and they have to have 80 copies of the book. And I'm seeing a guy buys 80 copies of that. He's not buying other books, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a year later, when it's worthless, he's going to be hating the business because he's like, this thing's worthless. I mean, how many Death of Supermans have come back into the store and people going, you know, hey, how much can I get for this? And I'm like, you want 100 more? We got them, you know? So this like really bizarro kind of thing going on. You know, and don't get me wrong, I love collecting. I have my CGC books, I have my regular books, I love all of that, but I also love the comics themselves, you know. And I just think, like I said, I just think money's going to be spent differently.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think this is a good opportunity for some change to happen, right? I think it's a good opportunity, but obviously, like with the big two, you're talking massive Warner Brothers, Disney. I mean, you know, everyone's hoping. You know, Shane O'Sullivan had mentioned, and I put his thing up. You know, maybe Marvel can clean house after this and be rid of much of the toxic behavior from certain creatives on social media. Maybe get rid of those using comics for that TV script deal. But I mean, I don't really foresee too much of that. I mean, ideally, I think a lot of us would like to see some comics go in certain ways, but again, everyone likes different things. But I think the way people spend their money, I think what they're going to focus on now, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Jimmy, with that. Yeah, I think they're going to be more conscious of what they're buying.
I mean, if we can print it on toilet paper right now, we'd be doing great.
Well, let me,
read and wipe.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you.
Read and wipe.
Now, Brian, I don't know if you thought about this. Any publishers through Diamond, you have Peter Cimetti, our buddy with Alterna Press. He's putting out, what are they, 24 or 32 page comics? He's selling them for $1.50.
Yeah, newsprint.
$1.99 on newsprint. And the newsprint today is not like newsprint was.
That's true.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's working really well for him because you wonder, do comic book buyers? I was talking to a retailer buddy of mine today, and he said he still has something like 100 Captain Marvel #1s for when the movie came out.
Right.
Because he had to buy all those books to get whatever variant cover, and he still has 50 of them, and he can't move them because it's not a cheap book. But what if someone comes in? What if we come in now, going back to that newsprint thing? What if we come back to one and done stories like in the old days, the original Marvel 12, the original Marvel 13 books?
But Billy, you know that newsprint isn't the cost thing on those comics, right? I mean, you know that's not the cost. What you're paying for is a 16-story building with the offices of DC. What you're paying for is top name talent getting page rates that are double or triple what normal people. It's not the paper stock. The paper stock, look, we know how much paper stock was. It's not much.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to save a lot of money making my books with cheaper paper. I'm going to save a quarter tops.
Right.
Okay. True. It's everything else. So you know they pay their top people a lot of money. Yeah. They also have an office with editors, with 30 editors. They're paying full-time people to do all these jobs. Take a lot of money. So you're actually, you know, the cost of this comic book is almost everything besides the printing. You know, and so it's easy if it's us to go in and say, okay, so I'm not paying myself much. Let me put it out. But then at the end of the day, we have to make enough money to live off it, you know, and we have our expenses and we have our talent we're paying, right? But it's a lot different than a Marvel, a DC, a Valiant, an IDW, a Dark Horse. They have overhead. They also are in other businesses than comics.
Exactly.
Where we are only in comic business, okay? And screw TV and screw films and all that bullshit pipe dream shit. let's be honest, comics very rarely make it into film and TV. It's very rare. And guess what, folks? It's getting even harder now because TV and film have so many people. All they do is just steal the ideas from us. They don't need us involved anymore. They just need to take them. And they've been doing it for years. We know that. Okay. Yeah. So that pipe dream of I'm going to do a comic and it's going to come a film, the reality of that should be off the table because we all know, because we've all done these deals, it's great to make a little money, but unless you win the lottery like Mark or The Walking Dead or something, those are lottery things.
Yeah.
Those are rare.
Yeah, I always call that
books. Yeah.
Man, we all got blasted with a truth bomb. What's up?
Well, I'm just saying, if you're going to make comics, you're going to have to
make comics
that you love and people are going to enjoy reading.
So moving forward, right? Like IndieCare, how do we get these books to be seen? Because I mean, like honestly, what I see from the larger publishers, I mean, it's almost like they're experimenting with so many different things that it's just like flop. They seem to keep flopping, you know. And it's like
each other. We need to push each other's product. If the 6 people here pushed everything the 6 people here did, you'd be surprised how much noise that is.
Yeah.
Actually, my comics are based on a flawed premise because many years ago, when John and Chris Claremont were doing X-Men, it was just the content that drove sales.
Yep.
It's the thing that excited people. Go back and take a look at those wonderful runs. There were no variant covers, no this, no that. And that's the secret sauce. We so adored those stories that we would tell the next person. And before you know it, their print runs were doubling and tripling. Gigantic companies now have reduced themselves to constantly re-engineering their quote-unquote uses with these maxi marketing programs that 4 months of, and then for a restart. I actually have confidence that and on the economic side of the comic book, the mainstream comic book business through the Comics Direct market, it's designed to fail. You put out your #1 comic book based on cycle sheets, your #2 is going down no matter what. Your #2 is going down no matter what. And there's a shot that your 3 or your 4 could possibly go up. And the publishers are looking at it and they're like, nope, we got to get out. You know, yes, we have Donnie Cates on like the top book and he's selling gangbusters, but damn, we got to push this thing out. And we started. And kind of a sad self-fulfilling prophecy. That time of just these great creators sticking on something and going, you know, Mike Mignola, his universe, that kind of stuff. Like, I actually think that's the secret sauce. But the bigger companies should have the confidence to develop that talent and stick with it. Being that they won't, and being that I never personally cared about that, doing it with them, we just do it on our own.
Yeah, I mean, that you're right on the nose, and it's funny because I think about mine and Amanda's run on Harley Quinn. We were on it for 4.5 years.
Amazing.
Nobody else was doing that book but us, you know, and we were consistent on it. We had our own vision, and you could tell we were just having fun doing it. And it actually, you know, people tell us, like, when you guys were doing it, that was like every month it was there, it was out, it was consistent, you know, and we made it our own book, right? We made Harley in our voice. That when you read that book, you can hear me and Amanda. Anybody that knows us. And the problem with that is, or the good part about that is, just like you said, with Claremont and Byrne on X-Men, it's like you get these passionate creators that love the characters. You can tell the love. And no matter what, eventually the comic audience finds that book. But it's very rare, right? Because we have people that go, well, I just want to do Batman. And we all know whoever writes Batman this month is the writer becomes a big person, a big star that month. Yeah. It's not the other way. Batman makes the writer a star. If the writer's good, that's great. If the writer's not good, it doesn't matter. Batman's still going to sell on some level. But if the writer's amazing and Batman's connecting, then the book goes crazy.
Right. An arcane thing from comics is that Diamond has an index, and they historically index it to Batman. You remember the Batman Order Index?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sales are either above or below the Batman index because it's seen as being relatively stable.
Right. I mean, and look, and again, I'm going to go back to Harley because it's obviously something I went through. That was a dead character when we got the book. And it just, and look, Marvel Knights was all about the right team on the right book, right? The passion. Kevin Smith really wanted to do Daredevil. Joe really wanted to draw Daredevil. Mark Texeira really wanted to do Black Panther. Jay Lee really wanted to do Inhumans. The right people for the right books. It sounds simple, but it's not so simple. And so when you have creators stepping out of that safe zone with the big companies, we're creating books we love. And I think that's where the fans understand. They see the passion in the book. And I think we just need more of that. I just think, that, you know, obviously we're doing that right now. But it's just, I think that is the key to successful comics is the passion behind the creators.
Yep.
Well, the one thing I wanted to say, and Jimmy, you can remember when we were communicating on Facebook, I would always send you my Harley Quinn sales. Oh my gosh, look at my Harley Quinn sales.
Yes.
Retail is about placement and it's about excitement, and we're the front lines for every publisher, and sometimes we're the front lines for the creator. And so Harley Quinn became our #1 selling book. I think we're the #1 seller in the nation. Why? Because I knew Jimmy and Amanda, and I wanted to, because they were such great allies, we wanted to perform for them. And so when they came in, we had that connection. And I think that's what you need on the floor. You need these connections. Polito has a huge boutique in my store. And when people come in, that shows our bond and it gives people confidence to buy. So I really think on the front lines, it really becomes down to relationships and not just the hype that we get in previews, but our relationships with the creators and the publishers.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And again, I'm not putting down the big companies. They got great characters.
Oh,
I just
amazing
think
characters.
you have to line up the right people with the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reed Troutman, they shuffle the talent so they don't get big enough to leave.
Yeah.
Well, you
To
know,
go out on their own.
I mean, they should keep certain people on for a very long time. I think.
Well, they used to do that.
look, we were doing 2 books a month, you know, with Harley.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally, in our run of, I think it was 4.5 years, there is 3 800-page omnibuses of all the work we've done. That's a lot of comics. Okay.
Yeah.
We burned out on Harley. We totally burned out. I mean, it was 2 a month plus specials. It was just too much. And Amanda and I just said, if we can't do the quality we want to do, we'd rather not do it. And then we came back and did this little Black Label thing just because that's us having fun on it. But we knew that we had, that was time to go, you know, for us. And
you just knew it, right?
That's what it, you know.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy, you know, I loved, and Jimmy and I, we did the last year, we did the London show. And I don't know, a year or two before that, we did the Paris convention together. And remember, like you were talking about those beautiful graphic albums, the European way, which is not dissimilar to what we do with our books now, with our crowdfunding, with hardcover editions, you know, really extra thick, beautiful, full self-contained stories. And those booths of those Panini and those, and even just the stores, actually, they were mobbed. People go to these books like, again, if you can get that new graphic novel, maybe it only comes out a year, you know, once a year because of all the work. But if there's 30, 40, 50 of them being produced, I mean, there are people hitting those, like they're like bookstores. I mean, they were, right? I mean, and they grab these big, beautiful, you know, graphic albums, you know what I mean? I call them graphic albums because that's what the Eisners call them, you know, but they're these hardcover books and all. And that's another way to maybe elevate us to that next level of, if you're saying nobody really cares if the books are put out on newsprint, you can roll them up. They're not 10 cents anymore, trading with your friends. Yeah. Maybe that's our thing, is to become almost in perceived as a boutique type of an industry.
Well, it's a tactile business, isn't it? We want to hold it. We want to look at it. We want to, you know, when something's $5 and it doesn't feel like $5. Look, we go shopping in the supermarket. We all do. And we look at the price and we go, nah, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying that. Like our brain functions. And says, this is $5. Why is this comic book $9.99? Yeah. You know, because it's a special issue. Why do they want $10 for this? For $2 more, I can get a hardcover, or I can get a trade. So we're very tactile, and comic people are very, very tactile. So there's something that says because it's a hardcover and because it's more money, that means I should respect it more. I hate to say it, but that's the way it is. You know, it's like showing up. You going out with a girl and showing up, and you open the door, and she's dressed like a slob, or she's dressed to kill. The part of your brain that sees where the evening's going to go right away. You know.
Part of what I was thinking, speaking exactly to what Jimmy's talking about, when I decided to get back into the crowdfunding game, I thought that I always loved that 48-page square-bound format, and the stories that were portrayed there seem to have more gravitas. You know, let's say Hulk Future Imperfect. It was like, okay, I got to pay attention to this thing. This means more. The other thing I was thinking too, and I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but I actually interviewed tons of comic book retailers about 5 years ago and heard what they had to say as I was considering getting back into the direct market. One of my takeaways was that the monthly format might not apply to what I was doing. And what I mean by that is it's sort of that strange market attrition that happens no matter what. That's one thing. And then I said to myself, look, if I use crowdfunding as a tool, probably the best I can do is 4 items a year. That's not bad, because guys like Stephen King, an author, has what he calls a constant reader. And King might put out 1 thing a year, 2 things a year, but his readership grew with him. So I leveraged and bet that our reader would stick with us if we're just being fairly consistent with something that's a little meatier, and that they were a little more set in their ways. They were set in economically where they were in life. So I decided not to chase down that floppy. And I think, Jimmy, what's coming up for me, let me back up a minute. I love hearing what all you guys have to say, because you all think slightly differently than I do, so I'm always learning something. I think, Jimmy, you're speaking to the topic of the disposableness of the floppy. I think that's something that we know in our soul, and that there's almost like a disrespect on it.
Yeah.
Going to quote unquote prestige, it's all the things that we're talking about tonight. You feel better about it. That, you know, for collectors, it's like, wow, this is something I could really get behind. So I pontificate, but those are some of the thoughts that were in my mind as I jump back into this game.
Yeah, and the number one rule in retail right now is convenience. So people want convenience. A year ago, if Brian said, "Hey, I'm the next day air that book to you," I'd be, that is awesome. Now, if Brian says, "I'm the next day air," I'm going to say, "You can't get that to me in a couple hours." I mean, that's the way we think now. And so I think it's about convenience. It's about time. Do I wait 6 months to buy $4 each, or do I just buy the book and not worry about it and go do other stuff? So I believe that a good portion of our sales going forward is going to move over to that, because convenience is important to the consumer. And they're also, like Jimmy said, you're looking at prices and $3.99, you know, times 6, that's a lot of money versus saving your money on that trade.
Yeah. Paula Ritchie asks, what makes it easier for retailers to tell that this book will sell?
Oh, I mean, right?
I don't think they can.
Man, this is a Jesse question.
Yeah, I think it's what it comes down to. I have a very simple thing. If you contact me and tell me about how excited about your book, I'm going to have that comic sell. I don't care where it is. So I think it's about connecting with the retailers and not just being drastic and doing that form letter and saying, "Oh, here we are." I can't tell you how many small publishers have called me on the phone out of the blue and just told me about their product. When we were carrying new issues, we'd go order 10, 12 books. And because of that excitement, we're able to sell it. Now, the answer is, are they calling me on issue number 2 and issue number 3? And are they consistent about that excitement? And I think that's what the important part is. So it's about really showing the excitement from the creator, from the publisher, that will encourage placement on the floor so you can sell that book. Most books don't need to be sold. Comic book fans are kind of funny. If you wave a comic book in front of them, they'll probably then buy it because you waved it in front of them. If it's just sitting on a shelf, even though it looks nice, they might not buy it. So I think it's about excitement, and it's about really giving the consumer the show. We're always doing that show. Like Brian says, ABS, always be selling.
And I always the retailer that I sit and I watch them order, they look at names. They go, who drew that book? Who wrote that book? And then they go, I don't know any of these guys, so let me see if the concept is any good, or the art's any good. Yeah. And art is a big part of it, right? Art is a huge part of it. Sure. But they go for names too. So if it's a smaller company, but all of a sudden it says Alan Moore on it, you're like, okay, you know what? I got to order some of those, kind of thing. Well, so we are like that in a way that names are still really important in this business because of the talent,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I decided to discontinue doing comic books completely at my store, one of the things I always hated was the fact that they were overabundant. They definitely did quantity and not quality instead of the other way around. It's like these big companies, they had more dollars and cents when it came to trying to put all these titles out. And then later on down the road, those same books that you ended up paying $3.99 or the price for the books, they had, you could buy unlimited quantities for like a dime or a quarter because they were trying to clear them out of the warehouse. And also the rope-a-dope, like the bait and switch for getting people on titles. Like right now, I fell completely in love with Strange Academy. I love Strange Academy. Of course, it's got Humberto Ramos and it's got Scotty Young, right? Yeah, Scotty Young, and it's going to be amazing. But in two or three issues, maybe they might abandon the book and move on to something else, and then they hand it over to somebody else, which will just ruin the book. Probably ruin the book. I don't know. Maybe they might do well. I don't know. But I think that this is definitely the time for them to be quality. Make sure they have somebody stick on a book for maybe a full fleshed out story and then change or something. I don't know.
That is a fun book. I'd also give a shout out. I kind of like Mark Waid's Doctor Strange right now. It's been a fun book.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to watch Kill Bill Part 2 with different actors.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so Jesse, being on the forefront, having this new business model for 2 years, where do you think we go from here?
What we go from here is we go to smarter store owners that are making decisions that are about the now and not about 60 days out. I think you need to connect. Stores are going to realize that if when someone tells me about their Wednesday and they're all excited, I'm like, but you're supposed to have a good Wednesday. Tell me about your Monday. Tell me about your Sunday. And that will tell me how they relate to their customers. So I think socially, you'll see stores become more abundant in talking to their fan base, not just about selling them something every day, but in my case, I'm a big NFL Super Pro #1 guy. Everybody knows I have over 1,000 copies of it. I have no idea why I have.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Just Go cover, was that the Just Go cover? Didn't you?
Yeah. So, but what happens is people gravitate to that, and I'll go on my page in the morning. People are showing the NFL Super Pro #1s they just bought. Wow. And so I think
you got to get Space Punisher next. You should be the Space Punisher.
So I think the future is a better connection with their fan base 7 days a week, letting the fans know that they can talk to them beyond a Wednesday. And I think that's where we go. But stores have to be innovative. They have to take chances. They have to create better allies out there. And at the end of the day, the final thing that I think is the most important thing that I can tell any store owners, you got to sell books. And it doesn't matter if you're new issues, back issues, it does not matter. Just sell comic books. And I think if you sell comic books, you can't lose.
Yeah.
Are you receptible to, say, someone like me, like Jimmy? Always be selling. Word up, bro.
Right in my office, ABS.
To deal directly with publishers. Are you open to that? Like, could someone? We have a lot of self-publishers here that do Indiegogo books, that do Kickstarter books. Are you open to them contacting Jesse James Comics?
So the benefit Jesse James Comics has over most. There you go, right there. That's nice. Very important too. Yep. If I had an NFL Super Pro, I would show that. But at the end of the day, listen, I have a huge benefit over most comic book stores. They have contracts with Diamond. They have to follow certain rules and how they contact publishers. I don't have a contract with Diamond. I can conduct business as I wish with companies that want to deal with me. Over the last 2 years, I have Pluto has a 200 square foot boutique in my store. Boom has a 700 square feet boutique in my store. Big Dog Inc. has a 250 square foot boutique in the store. So I've taken my floor and said, how do I manage my business? How do I create great allies, sell great books? So I'm open to anybody that has a great product that wants to sell it, have great placement, have a great relationship. I think that's what's important. Not all stores can do what I do, but I've also done this for 2 years. I know I've taken a big chance 2 years ago, and for me personally, it's paid off tremendously. But I hope that other stores out there have the same opportunities that I have. So I guess at the end of the day, the answer is absolutely. Let's start tomorrow.
Hey Jesse, when you quit doing the books, did Diamond reach out to you and try to get you back? Like, were they like hounding you to come back and buy books from them, or?
We had a lot of conversations over the first year. They knew at some point that I had. It's very tough. Here's the funny part about this, and Brian knows this, is when you put your flag in the ground, sometimes you have to stick with that flag. And as people started seeing me being successful in the public, or in the comic book universe, not having new issues, carrying new issues again would be so detrimental to my store, because everything I achieved would go to the wayside because people would say, oh, see, he has to carry new issues again. So that came into play. There's great stories and great relationships. I wrote a great op-ed about the Juppies yesterday. I'm loyal to the Juppies, and I will continue to be loyal to the Juppies. But I would say, yes, there was. But at the end of the day, my brand decided to go the direction that we felt that was the most beneficial to my customer base.
And that's what everyone has to do.
No
I
doubt.
mean, same thing with us. The Jeppies changed my life, but I went the crowdfunding route because I really, in the way the market is set up right now with the big two, it's really tough to compete.
Yeah.
Well, here's a prime example. Can you imagine waking up one day and saying to 425 box holders, I can't fulfill your boxes anymore. So we make some strong decisions. I will tell you,
I did that when I got married. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go. 2 years later, guess what? I am very honored and privileged to service about 350 of those customers for their back issues. So you find a way to sell comics.
Right.
That's it.
Hey, man, that's the way to do it then.
You're a tough guy, Jesse. You're a tough guy.
Yeah.
Tough guy.
Burn Diamond down.
I want to say a trendsetter.
I love Diamond, though. I can't pick on him. Steve's a great guy to sit and talk to. What a smart dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I agree with everything Jess said, and Jesse knows. I have a friendship with the Jets as well. What they do is completely valid, and what we're trying to do is also valid.
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing is a lot of people try to fit everything to these little categories. It's the Wild West out there, man, and this is a defining moment of our time. Our winning circumstance is going to emerge. New pathways, the strong survive.
Yep.
It's actually it's scary, and it's a humongous opportunity.
Yeah.
Brian, it's like punk rock, man, with our own labels.
Yeah.
We had the big labels, and then we had our own little bands coming out. Look, Billy, you were talking about it. We did San Diego, the three of our booths all attached.
Yeah.
And how great, and the convention hated it because we had so many people. They hated us. San Diego,
Brian had firelights.
I had firearm light and fox shoot, and these guys are like, "You got to turn it off," and I'm like, "No, you don't understand. This is what we need to be ourselves." And they're like, "No, you don't understand."
Yeah, they didn't like us.
Not at all. And meanwhile, they're okay with Marvel sitting there throwing out free comics and free pogs and free trading cards and all their garbage. But for us, like Brian had all, a couple of hundred people singing "God Bless America" something when they were kicking him out of his booth,
Right.
sending him to the right. They shut you down, and people saw. Was that what they were saying or something?
You know what's funny though? Out of that is we are in the present, and I would actually, my experience in the last couple of years is that San Diego Comic-Con or Comic-Con National is like one of the last places that actually hold the history of our business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You and I, we've talked. There's less than 50th, and it's like all that '90s stuff was forgotten about, but like. It's like the one place that still has some bit of our collective history, because all these other establishments, they don't give a rat's ass. So like it's the place that has a little bit of the history.
You know what? I remember, and you guys will remember this. Remember when Big Entertainment came and they had that giant booth?
Yeah.
And they paid people a fortune to do their books. And they gave out T-shirts and they gave out stuff. They spent on that booth like $100,000, and we spent like $3,000 on our booth. Yeah. And we had tons more people coming in, and they went out of business so quick because this was, hey, we're gonna make comics and get TV shows, and we're gonna be popular because we got these big names, and comic people are gonna buy it. And guess what? Nobody wanted it.
Yeah. I had a discussion with Faye about that big entertainment booth, and I remember we're going to put you back in the independent pavilion, and I'm proud to be an independent publisher, but the independent pavilion was all the way in the back.
Right.
It was an afterthought, and I said, "Well, I want Faye. I was in this spot last year. This was '95 or something. Why can't I be there again?" And she goes, "Well, we have Big Entertainment," and I'm like, "Well," and basically what she told me was, "Well, Big Entertainment is a corporation."
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, I'm a corporation, and I'm outselling them 10 times."
Come on.
Right.
What do you got? And then she's like, "Oh, okay." And then you know what I mean? Because I stood up for myself. And put ourselves there,
right? Techno,
you had to give this to Faye. You had to go, Faye. Look, I want to tell you. That's how we did it in Brooklyn. I don't know.
Jimmy did that like a pro. I
did do it like a pro.
I think that this will be our finest hour. I really do. I think it's a great time for people like ourselves, you, Jesse, for you to have that. You are an innovator in comic book and graphic novel and pop culture, nostalgic store. You're an innovator in that. You are a pioneer in that thing, and you're thriving on it. Look what Jimmy has done. Jimmy's one of the first people in Kickstarter. We all went to Jimmy first.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Jimmy doing right.
That's
I mean,
right.
10 years now or whatever you've been doing it. All the successful campaigns you had. You just I got your book over here, Jimmy. So thank you. And thank you, Jimmy, for the little note too. You said love you, Billy. I haven't opened it. I want to do an unboxing. But now Brian, I mean, you hit over what was your number on the latest Lady Death book?
347.
$347,000 in a 30-day campaign. Just 30 days on Kickstarter.
Dinner's on Brian, I said.
Absolutely.
Brian's got a lot of people working for him, but both of you guys put that money back into the company. You put it into the product. You put it into the books. I mean, the paper quality is unmatched. And as Jimmy, you were saying, is anybody really going to care if something's on newsprint? Probably not. But they do see if something looks expensive and feels expensive.
We worry about spot varnish.
We totally worry about it. Jimmy. It's true. It's what the strangest thing I've always said, you don't pick comics pick you. It's something else you could be doing, but to this day, I'll put in anything, even almost like a color copy, and I just still obsess on it, and I adore it.
Right. Well, don't people want to be part of something? They want to be able to walk into a store and buy something that's cool. But I think what you guys do is you actually engage with them and they're part of something. I mean, I have 10 of these around the store just in case I don't forget. And Brian comes in and gets me 4 of here. But
what is it?
But you create that bonding. And when you're part of something successful, I hear people that, yeah, there you go. I hear people that will say, oh my gosh, we did $347,000.
Oh yeah.
And it's that bondage that they have, the excitement that their $25 was part of that. And I think that's what makes everything exciting for us.
Well, yeah, they're part of the project. They're part of the project, the campaign with you guys, so when you're running it, they feel a part of it.
Yes.
And that's like what, Brian does very well is making, or actually, I wouldn't even say making, he involves the fans in it.
Yeah.
Taking that extra step of, doing special conventions just really for the fans, focused on, Coffin Comics and everything. I mean, it's all encompassing.
I got to tell you, I've always known where my bread is buttered, and there would be no me without the people who enjoy our stuff. Fiend, Sworn, I'm clear. Yeah. And I also am clear that early on in comics, I send out my stuff and constantly get rejected, and I quickly accepted it. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't got no daddy, so I got a daddy, and we wear our hard work on our sleeves. And part of the game and the fun. I mean,
Brian, we have the same thing. We travel when we do the shows. We run into the same people. Hey, I haven't seen you in 2 years. Like Amanda and I will not leave the show till every single person on that line, and we talk to every single one of them. It might drive some people crazy online, but we have a moment with everybody. We talk. We see familiar faces. They bring us gifts. We give them gifts. We love the interaction and the grassroots nature of comics because it's not like a sports team where we have 10 million people.
Right.
We have thousands, and thousands are not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, thousands. These are the 1,000 best people we have. So it's always been our job to connect with these people. And I see you, Brian, like me at the booth. We talk to everybody, and we talk movies. We talk music.
Yeah.
We involve them in our world. We get involved in their worlds, and it really helps. I mean, when I launched the first Kickstarter, it was a little nerve-wracking because everyone was giving me crap. Mm-hmm. They were saying, "Oh, you're a pro. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be." And I'm like, well, the book I'm doing, nobody's going to buy it anyway. I have to find an audience for it, and no company wanted it. And and I still do the note. I'll sign my name, and we even pack it because we're crazy. But I don't have the numbers like Brian has. But there's a connection there, and these are my people.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm making the books. I know what they want. They want a little TNA. They want a little violence. They want stuff they can't get in the regular Marvel, DC, Image, whatever. They want something. And I also know they want the limited edition, and they want the limited prints, and they want the sign, a signature, and they want these things. And it's taking me, I've done 12 and I'm still fine tuning. But it's the greatest experience for me to have this interaction with the fans. When something sucks, they tell you, and it's really good. I mean, the internet's really good at telling me I suck too. But besides that, if they don't like the book, they actually let you know by not backing it, and that's like.
Well, it is definitely a limited group. I mean, like you have a limited exclusive group. So yeah, I mean, having those people, I mean, I hope to have something like that someday. Like it's definitely something to. Thanks, Niall.
Yeah.
It'll never happen.
It takes work. It's all. Patrick Wedge says boobs sell. You know what? No matter what book I do, I always do a cover by Amanda with nudity on it, and that's the first thing that sells.
Yeah.
It's funny. We in our office we have a lot of female contributors. Our president is a woman, and our warehouse manager is a woman. And we have women work, and I always say it's like I'm happy to show some dick. Everybody says like.
Yeah, all right, that's it. The end of the
show. Jesus,
you got that money still there, Jimmy? I thought you were ready to bring that money back.
God.
So, gentlemen.
Yeah, no, but well,
oh boy.
Yeah, right there, Billy. You get so flustered when that comes up.
No, hey, I can do the.
You can hang with the best of them.
Salute! I can do it all day. I don't care, but it's.
There you go.
Well, and you've got very tough. We've all. It's funny too. The three of us, Brian and Jimmy, we've got three really tough women, You know, strong-willed, smart women that that really drive the engine.
They're the bosses. We know they are the bosses.
Yeah, I got to acknowledge too. Like everybody gets to know me as this guy named Brian Polito, but there is no Coffin Comics without Francisca Polito. Presidente runs the shop. I mean, she's got the acumen, the financial know-how, building.
Jesus.
Speak for yourself. Anyways,
man,
I would say if they like the book, when Amanda and I write together, if they like it, they tell her it's great. Amanda did a great book. If they don't like it, they say, Jimmy, you suck.
Well, as Jimmy, as you were saying, that's why I ran downstairs to go look for my new the book. And you wrote on it, love you, Billy. Thank you. And Brian, every on the box of every book or in the little letter that you put in every one, thank you. Love you guys, Yeah. And Fran is right. Francisca's right. If you put great stories, great art, great customer service, and that, that equals success. And again, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us, for people like ourselves. The big two aren't leading. They're not. And if they're trying to lead, they're not doing a great job.
Right? I still love those characters.
Yeah.
From the big two. And they still put out great books. I still buy books from both companies, DC and Marvel. Yeah. I think they're great. I think they serve their superhero comics. They do very well.
Yeah.
We don't always do superhero comics. The three of us. Let's be honest. They're not always superhero. They're a little different,
Anti-heroes. Why not?
Yeah, anti-heroes.
Anti-heroes are more fun.
Horror, sci-fi, whatever it may be, fantasy, whatever it be. But they do superheroes well, and I'm happy they're there because they do. A lot of stores do need to have that much product coming in at all times. So I'm totally cool with that. But like music, I think there's room for everything. And I think there you go, Fran. Yeah, no dick. Shaking at Brian. I'm quite worried. Time she said no dick.
Man, I thought y'all said the nudity sells. I've been naked this whole thing, so hopefully it'll be awesome.
That's your best friend, Jimmy, right there. There's your best friend.
But he's like, it's only like there's no video of it. What happened?
Man, it was a hard fought battle.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, for real though. There's some stuff going on in the room where all my computer streaming setup is, so had to come in. But yeah, I definitely be ready for next time for sure.
He's actually really naked, so he's not putting his camera on.
Yeah,
he really is naked.
I'm definitely not naked. I got a hat on. I
will say, like I said, I think there's room for everything to coexist. And what Marvel and DC does, that's their business. And it'll be great. Good books are good, bad books are bad.
Yep.
But we're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And look, I still work for DC, and I just finished the book for Marvel. I love work. I love those characters. When they ask me, and if I like the character, I'll work on it. But and I give it my all. But I also love doing my own thing, and it does. I too try to prioritize it all. I haven't made the full investment because I still love doing some of this stuff, and Harley definitely helped us on a lot of levels. Puts our names out there, and again, we have to build careers, right? We've been in the business a long time, and we're still building careers.
Yeah, but dude, you helped Harley Quinn. She was like she was Joker's
girlfriend.
Abused an abusive relationship, and you brought it to the forefront.
Yeah, well, yeah, Amanda and I, absolutely.
Yes, you and Amanda and you.
Yeah, Amanda did.
So, Jimmy, Jimmy, I proposed that to Jesse. He answered. So, Jimmy, where do we go from here? Where do you go from here?
I have a 138-page graphic novel is going to be my next Kickstarter, and it's all done. It's all done. Me and Dave Johnson wrote it together. Wow. It's about competing soda companies in Japan.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Really? It's called Pop Kill. And that's all I'm going to say about it for now, because I want to roll out the art and roll out the fake ads and all the stuff we made for it. But it's not. I was thinking about doing it in April, and I might wait because it's going to be an expensive book. I'm just feeling out the world right now, so I don't want to take money out of people's pockets.
Right.
For that expensive, if it was like a $5 comic or something, it'd be different. But it's actually an expensive book, and it's a big fat book. So I'm going to wait a little bit.
Nice. And Dave's doing the interiors.
What's that?
Dave is doing the interiors.
No.
Oh,
Dave, it's Juan Santiago. I'll tease it, but I'm not ready to talk about it too much yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Brian,
Brian,
where do we go from here, bro?
Our winning circumstance. You know, if you were prepared for this moment, you're going to be solid. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some change, disruption, all true. I do love the comic book shopping network model because what it does is it resuscitates what's exciting. My advice for comic shops, and far be it from me to take that position, I'm not a shop owner, although I have worked in shops in the past, is sell everything that's on hand. Show your love and your passion, your excitement for it. Feel free to share that. I think it's contagious. There's no way around it. In the case for comics, we are steady as she goes. Our staff, everyone is on board. Our internal staff is 7 people working remotely. Our warehouse staff is working on staggered shifts, social distancing. At this moment in time, Arizona is still allowed to rate, and we're going to press as we speak on our latest kick. And we actually don't have a plan to change our plan. So our next kick comes in May. Again, Darwinian circumstance. I hope for everyone the best. And I think it's time to, in times like these, some people's impulses is to point out that things are scary and I think that's true. But to ask yourself what you're providing for the community I think is really success. So again, for Coffin, we get the reality of things, but like I'm about the fun and the excitement and kind of leading to the will of this horrible circumstance. So I'm pontificating a bit, but that's our game, is like steady as she goes and solid. And one thing I'll say too is, briefly, if I can, is that the first announcement for the first coronavirus announcement for Southern California and Arizona. It was on a Sunday in late January. And that Monday, I called up all my local printers and I said, "You got to start talking about stocking extra paper." And they're, "Why?" They said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I think we should prepare for the worst and hope for the best." So, all those Boy Scout kind of adages and stuff, that's the game right now. And I wish everybody the best.
Absolutely. So, Brian, what is the next campaign in May? What's the next book?
The next campaign in May, which we're working on as we speak, is La Muerta Retaliation. Boom. And we are in 48-page, ready to go. And that in August, we're not changing the date. It's Death, Treacherous Infamy. Nice. And then after that, in October, it's Hell Witch Sacrilege. And don't really care what the impact is one way or the other. We're just sticking to the plan.
You're going hardcore now. You're gonna be able to publish Hell Witch, because I know you ran into some trouble with it.
We had a printer. We were there, and then the printer said, "Look, this is too much. If you're willing to change it, well." And I said, "No, that we can't do that." I get it.
They were asking you to change it?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
We had a printer, an offset-based printer that we've used in Arizona for about 18 months. Yeah, didn't say that, and we declined. Strangely, we went and print the interior all the way in China, got them back, put the book together and got it out. Now that element wasn't sustainable. So in that interim, we spent our time and we hit the phone and looked for another offset.
Was it because of the hell or because of the witch? Like if it was Hell Puppy, it would have been fine, or if it was Sandwich, it would have been okay.
The sandwich.
All we had to do is change one.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Long story short, we found a replacement printer, and we're going through the experience with the printer for the first time right now, and it could really be a bridge. It could be a breakthrough in terms of like crowdfunding based offset printing. No joke.
All right. One of you squawkers posted.
Brian Polito sends me an email every day. Every day. That's the motto. Keep in everyone's face. Turbocharged, sworn. I back the comics and brought product more than I can count. Thanks, Brian.
All right. And Jimmy's friend Brian, you had like the ending of Silence of the Lambs going on with your camera.
Did your camera have night vision?
Yeah, like so I tried to come down here just to show like the huge mess that I have. Like I just got the shelves built for my studio so I could have all my movies and stuff up on there and all the stuff for my setup. And then of course like I have my whole stream unit, and then I have my gaming computer over here for the stream unit, and then my secondary unit over there in case I have somebody over.
You look like the end of an FBI movie, you know, where they bust in and they find the guy that has all the files.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I
love you, Brian. Yeah, but don't do that.
What do you need?
Yeah, don't do that, Brian.
God.
Hey, RT Bear.
RT Bear.
I wanted to get on so you didn't actually think I was naked. You know,
Jimmy, I don't know if you know, and we're gonna wrap it up, but Jimmy, I don't know if you know, but RT Bear was almost murdered by a very famous serial killer when he was a kid. He hung out with this guy.
Ted Bundy?
Yeah, it's a true story. And the video that Brian was just setting up, that looked like that serial killer's like the last thing that people had ever seen.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs when Jodie Foster has the night vision on and she's going in the basement.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just the lighting. It's just the lighting down here. Like I said, I tried to get. Where's my Christmas tree? Wouldn't you like to know?
Oh,
it's where he hangs his underwear to dry.
Hey, but before you go, like I was talking with Niall about a game show idea, like because this is the downtime. Like, people are out of work. They don't have anything to do, and like I was talking with Niall. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Niall has been working on a story for a while, and he really wanted to draw it, and and with his job and work and everything, like he just couldn't really find the time to do it. Like, I'm not trying to talk out of turn or anything, but how many other people out there do you think really would have loved to have tried to be a comic book artist, but just couldn't find the time because they were basically involved with their work or set up with their job 24/7? Like, oh my God. So do you think that this could be a great opportunity to find the next big talent?
I think everyone should, if they have a hobby and you can turn it into something professional, they should pursue it. Why not? But drawing comics is so difficult. It's so involved. It is definitely not for the weak. I will say the things you have to draw, it's great to draw people flexing and flying, but when you have to draw like an office building with 30 guys in suits talking, and on the screen is a picture of a city, and or you have to draw 200 guys on horseback coming over a hill with spaceships flying over, it's definitely a hobby that you have to really fully commit to draw comics. And then there's the storytelling aspect. I think everyone should draw. I honestly feel like when we're kids, we draw, right? Every kid drew. Mom put it on the fridge. But something happens in the middle of your life where people start judging your art and people stop. And then all of a sudden you're 65, you don't give a shit about anything, and you start drawing again, right? I think everybody should pursue everything they can, but with the understanding that if it's making you happy, you should do it. And if you somehow could be a professional, even better. If not, you self-publish, that's great. I just think everybody has a story to tell and everybody should do it. I want to give one piece of advice, though. Can I give a piece of advice out to?
The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. When you're a professional, it's not professional to badmouth other professionals. I'm just going to say this straight out. If you have a gripe with somebody, how do we do that in New York? We call them up or we go see them face to face.
You talk face
If
to
you're going
face.
to go online and talk shit about people, I really don't have time for you. Okay? I really don't. I don't want that in my life. I hate when people do that they're not around to defend themselves or one-sided stories. I'm going to say part of being a comic professional is to be a positive person that inspires other people, not to be a person that takes down other people. So I'm going to say it because a lot of times people asking me, why don't I do this and why don't I support this person, that person? I said, because I don't like to talk crap about people unless they're with me. If they're with me, if one of you guys, I had to talk crap about one of you guys, we do it right now and we talk it out and it's great because you can say, oh, that's not really what happened. What happened was this and that, right? But I think our job is part of being professional is to act like professionals. So I just want to throw that out there because I see a lot of stuff on the internet and a lot on Twitter, especially, where people picking on other people, and it's just not cool.
It's nonstop.
You guys can argue with me for it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, it is nonstop, and I've even had to write posts about that stuff. You know, praise in public, ridicule in private. Yeah. I mean, my mentors always say, you got a problem with someone, go talk to them face to face. There's two ways to do it. One, talk to them face to face. Can't talk to them face to face, it's a phone call. If you can't make a phone call, then you wait till you can talk to them. It's not a text, it's not an email. You talk to that person. But there's that culture though that people are also using that to sell.
Yeah,
it's just a mess. It's a mess.
I think people go through things, and part of being a good writer is understanding what empathy means, because we have to put ourselves into the other characters that we're not like, right? And we have to be, and we have to figure out the motivation for these characters, and sometimes we have to see the world through their eyes, and it's not always our eyes. We you know. So with this, I learned not to judge so quickly because people have situations, people have anger from other things and they let it out. People screw up once in a while and you have to kind of be forgiving because we all do that. But I just think it's in bad form to do that. So I always want to say that every once in a while because I think it's a reflection on you if you do that, and it's not a great reflection to set up people.
No, if you're a professional, you want to be in it for the long haul. You don't want that short 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I can't tell you, and Jesse, you've seen Debbie at the booth talking to me, and she says, "Why be like Jimmy, be like Brian," and that's what she says. Because you'll have some of these guys, and that's all they have now. They burn so many. Art.
I'm talking about Jimmy.
Art hates you, Jimmy.
Art.
Art's gonna kill you like that because that guy almost killed him. No, and she's like, you know, just be you know, you have some people that they burn so many bridges and that's all they have now.
Yeah.
And now they're going to crowdfunding and they're failing because they burned so many bridges, but they need that negativity, they need that hate to try to get other miserable people to follow them. And you'll see their campaigns and they'll put up my new campaign. And why isn't anyone supporting my campaign? You know, why isn't anybody supporting my Kickstarter campaign? Well, because you're a miserable bastard and you're just a negative jerk and you talk shit about people and you tweet it every day. And nobody wants to look at that stuff. What are we, little kids?
There's a reason Billy and Brian and I have been friends for I don't even want to say how many years, but it's probably
10 years.
It's
well,
more than 10.
I'm 37, so Brian, you're a year older than me, right? And Jimmy,
I want to say like 95, since 95, maybe.
No, Jimmy, I met you. We used to do this. It was like the Sequoia Athletic Club in Southern California. I met you, Tex, and Joe.
Right.
And 93. That was like in 92.
Right.
Tell us about the Sequoia Athletic Club.
Well, it was a little place where they had
comic convention.
Oh.
They were in the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
After their badminton tournament.
What I was getting to is these are people that are professional. They don't talk smack. And if they have a problem, they call the person up on the phone and talk to them.
Yeah.
And I really respect that about all you guys. It's why I would work with both of you in a heart. You already know that. You already know this. But there is a reason you kind of stick with the people you stick with, right? Because they have the values and they have the things. And I just think that, like I said, if you're coming into the business, my best piece of advice is respect, respect, respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I would say, speaking to that exact topic, Jimmy, I kind of like 20 plus years ago, I said to myself, what do I want to be remembered for in my life? And really, all it really boils down to is I give people a fun and exciting time. It can't be more complicated than that. You know, I'm not going to cure the great ills of the world, but I realized that I was sort of attached to what I like to do, just tell stories and comics and crazy marketing campaigns. And I thought I visualized myself and I visualized my gravestone, and I basically simply said, "Is like you gave it a fun, exciting time." And I lived through that mantra. The company actually lives through that mantra, and I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, for me, I hold you a friend. I hold you as a mayor, a comic, and when you speak, I listen. And I couldn't agree more. We really want to leave everybody with here. You know, it's a good time, and I'm not going to. None of us here try to build ourselves up by putting other people down. It's just nothing.
Right.
You know, I'm a more aspirational kind of person. It's like, what can I do to lift you up?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't advise speaking badly about me either. Like, I really don't. I think it's a really stupid thing to do. You know,
It's a whole other thing.
See, Brian, what that's right there is that you could take the kid out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You can never take Brooklyn out of the kid.
When you draw comics, you have to have a lot of guns around for reference.
Yeah, that's what that's for, right, Jimmy? Reference.
It's reference.
Yeah.
Just reference. It's just reference,
Just
officer.
for reference. That's all.
Just reference, officer.
It's not loaded reference.
No.
Wow, people talk shit about me, make fun of me.
But just to finish what Brian was saying, though, is because we were thinking about with our own stories, and because we want to find artists, that we were going to kind of do like a weekly like tryout. You know, we get audition a certain amount of artists, see how their sequential art is, this and that, and then they can take my story, his story, and then once a week we kind of judge their stuff and elaborate on that and try to do like a fun little game show. You know,
Like
if
a
people
game
are
show
out of work and thing.
where the winner is the artist that we choose to do the book or something.
And they get paid, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you won, so you get to work with me. But
Or
then
what they can also do, though, and what they can also do on top of that is they can do their own books.
yeah.
And you know, and I think that the reason why we're still friends after all this time, I mean, we've had wonderful memories. I mean, my life would be so incomplete without you guys, to be perfectly honest with you. But the thing is that what Brian, I think, Jimmy and you too, and I mean, Jimmy, you were already a mainstream star, but Brian, you and I came in, and guys like Jimmy, and then the guys like the Image guys, and the big DC guys, we became friends with them because we didn't need anything from them.
Mm-hmm.
We all became friends on a level playing field, like, you know, having a few beers in the bar and just getting to know people as who they are. Yeah. Because, you know, man, I've had dinners, Jimmy, right? We've had dinners with Dan DiDio, and Dan would take us out, the DC, you know, people working on DC books, and there would be one guy who would just be bothering Dan all night about work.
Yep.
Right. And Dan would take us to a beautiful 5-star steakhouse or something like that. And he just wants to have a break, have a good time. You know, I respect all of you as creators, all of you as artists, as writers. Come on out to dinner. I want to take you out to dinner. And it was a fun thing. And there's that one guy that it's just, and you could just see how uncomfortable it was for everyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, part of that, when I was in advertising before comics, and part of the art of advertising is when you have to be very aware when your time is up and it's time to leave the room. That was part of our advertising. I mean, when I started in advertising, they said you have to read the room and know when to leave.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but at least Dan understood. It's just somebody's enthusiasm. They're so excited. And you look, let's be honest, people's enthusiasm, that gets us excited. You know, we get the right artist on the book we're working on. We're super excited. Or the right writer, or the printer came out, the book came out so great. We're running around the house going, look how great this looks.
Yeah.
It's still exciting every time.
There's nothing like anything in the world of having someone come up to you, giving you a book that you created and asking you to sign that cover and then saying thank you.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you thank me. No, thank you. You know?
Right.
It is. It's true. It's great.
It's fantastic.
Well, Jesse, as the sage here, what's your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are tonight on the Comic Book Shopping Network. The Binge Bar has its show 434, comic book convenience at your fingertips. We provide great comic book therapy for all your comic book needs. And tonight we are going to be highlighting 50 NFL Super Pro number 1
Nice.
near mint for all the customers out there and building a great relationship for our
They look
future.
great.
Where did you get them?
Yeah.
You know what? I just this is so funny. So when I was kind of joking around, you know, I have a nice personal collection, but I thought if I show people AF-15, that's whatever. But if I pick a book they just like and love, and so I kind of posted one on a page, and about a week later, I started receiving 3 here, 5 here, 10 here. Stores were send me 25 copies here. I heard this was your favorite book. And I thought, well, awesome, great. How do I feed off of that? And so I think sometimes when you know, everybody knows I'm a Bucks fan. I think people want to know about you. And I think NFL Super Pro allows me to have a connection with people that normally wouldn't have a connection with me. It's an easy book to get. It's affordable. And I got plenty to sell you.
I tell you, I had a moment like that. I years ago when I was younger, I went to Shea Stadium and they had, I didn't know it at the time, but they had the Mary Jane marrying Peter Parker thing live at Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
And they gave everyone in Shea Stadium, when you walked in, the comic, right? So when the game was over, half the people left their comics. So me and my buddy were carrying like 400 of them.
Nice.
And people were going, "What is wrong with you? What are you going to do with them?" And I'm like, "This is a special Shea Stadium edition." And I had I don't know how many, hundreds of them we had. And literally I was on the 7 train carrying these stupid Spider-Man books, but it was very my NFL Pro moment. Where I had a lot of the same book, you know.
Yeah.
Well, we got to do that. Tom Terrific comes to Tampa Bay comic book now, Jesse.
Definitely can't wait for that first touchdown pass and many more over the next couple of years, and rock and roll. And I think you hold true to your team no matter what. If they go 0-16, I'm still a fan next year.
There you go.
I hear you.
Die hard.
Big up to the Bucks. My dad's ashes are buried in Tampa Bay, so big up to the Bucks.
There you
anybody wants it? I'm in Tampa, so you're going to come by, come say hi.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
We'll put
We should all do that. You know, Brian, you have family in Florida.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy lives down there. Maybe we do in the fall, we'll head down to Florida. We all go to the 8th Street pub.
That's right.
I'm all about
down.
it. That's a date. I mean, that's a date.
Yeah, well, you come
Lock
down.
it
We'll
in.
spoil you guys. I'll spoil all you guys.
And I think Amanda will insist on Francisca and Debbie coming though, because I don't think she's going to want to deal with all of us.
No,
It's a date. It's a date.
Well, Scala, what do you say? This is a great show. I mean, all positivity, right? We all, times are tough, but I mean,
times are tough. Keep on trucking. You know, it's temporary. Things are on pause, but we're not on pause. So keep creating.
Keep on
doing it.
I made my own hand
Keep trying.
yesterday. Come on, you know.
Nice.
Aloe and alcohol.
That's it. Simple.
That's it.
Yeah, 70% alcohol, right?
Yep.
And thank you, Leah, as always, and Art, our pal, Art, coming in there. Good to see you, RT Bear. Good to see you, buddy.
He's got a new campaign coming out. All
So what do you
right,
think,
everyone.
fella?
It's time. It's time to go. So
That's
we'll be
time.
back tomorrow night. We'll be back tomorrow night with Eric Larson,
Yeah.
9 p.m. Eastern
What?
Standard Time. Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
come on?
You want to come on, Jimmy?
I actually got to do a thing tomorrow for DC. We're doing a live chat. I don't know what time though, but
Oh.
Yeah.
So, but if they go to dccomics.com or something, they can see that?
yeah, Amanda and I talking about I don't know what something DC-ish.
Are the fans going to be able to ask you guys questions?
Yeah, people can ask. I think so. It's the first time they're doing it.
Should we go live watching him
That should be.
Live?
That'd be awesome.
See, Eric Larson is. I don't know, man.
with Eric Larson?
That because I have a good Eric Larson story, so I just
Nice.
Billy, you remember when we did the Wizard Awards and we were crank calling people?
Yes.
When Nelson called Eric Larson as a lion tamer in Vegas, trying to get him to come to Vegas to do a show. I'm going to find that cassette. It's somewhere in my house. Eric was a great sport, and it's probably the funniest phone call ever. I'll see if I can find it. You can play it on the show.
And he is a good sport. He's a real interesting guy. I don't know, Brian, have you ever?
Dude, I love his heart.
He's a real interesting guy.
I love his
Yeah,
art
I mean,
too.
we both. He's an acquaintance, and we both like Jack Kirby and particularly Andy. I actually had Eric do me up a OMAC, another eye commission in late January,
Nice.
which is phenomenal.
Nice.
Well, I
It's
just
a secret. Comic book people are still comic book fans. We still want to buy art. We still love these artists. It's
It's
crazy.
the worst. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's like big and shit. I love it.
All right.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
comment-
Brian's dinner is getting cold.
Yeah,
so,
Brady, microwave it.
Guys,
Yeah,
thank you all. We hope you guys will come back
Yes.
on. Blevins, of
Yeah.
course, our sage. Thank you,
Yes.
everything. Jesse, great to see you, brother.
yeah, man.
Everyone
Thanks
have
for
a good
joining
one.
us
Hang
tonight,
loose. Thank
Jimmy.
you, guys.
Thank
I'll
you,
send you the
Thank you.
link, Jimmy, and if you have time and you want to pop in while we're on, and you can
Awesome.
figure it out,
Thank
you can
you.
just jump in.
We got the Brian. Congratulations on the Kickstarter. My God. Kicked ass.
347,000, kicking ass.
And pound.
taking names.
All right, everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. with the magnificent Eric Larson.
Good night, guys.
See you guys.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, Jimmy.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning into Crowdfunding Comics. We look forward to hanging out with all of our crowdfunding fans every time we go live. And don't forget to click the link below and subscribe to our channel. And there's a little bell. You may want to hit that too. This way you get all the great notifications when we go live and when we upload some awesome content. You want to follow us? Sure, go right ahead at Twitter at CrowdFundComics with an X, Instagram Crowdfunding Comics, and Facebook at Crowdfunding Comics. Till next time, crowdfunding fans, we'll see you soon.